Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Samsung Space Monitor. The one I have in front of me is the 32-inch 4K variant. You can find this monitor in two different variants. The 27-inch comes at 1440p resolution that runs at 144 Hz and is cheaper at £350. The said 4K monitor that we have in front of us costs £437. In the link in the description below, you'll find the full specs to this monitor, but also you'll find other suggestions and alternatives that I have found. Now, this monitor is rather unique, not only in terms of its in sort of design, but also in terms of its stand. But before getting into that, it's quite important to talk about specs. Now, this monitor is 32-inch or real 31.5-inch monitor. It has a quoted response time of 4 milliseconds G to G. It has a VA panel that runs at 60 Hz and 4K that is 3840 x 2160. It has two inputs only, mini display ports and HDMI, so HDMI 2.0 version in order to run that 4K resolution. It doesn't have any speakers, and that's pretty much it. As I said, other specs, you'll be able to find them in the description below, so do check them out. Now, I will apologize that this video isn't going to be shot professionally like other YouTubers, because I don't have that time or don't have the money. But I'm going to show you as much as I can about this monitor and give you a good idea of why this monitor is a little bit special versus its competitors. Now, the biggest thing that you're going to be noticing over here is its stand, and also why on earth is it on a very fancy footstool? Now, the reason behind that is because this stand didn't clamp onto my IKEA Freddy desk, neither did it clamp on my fiance's John Lewis desk, and therefore I had to find an alternative in order to actually test it. And the footstool seemed to have done the trick. So bear that in mind as to why I've got it set up like that. That is the explanation. Now, the actual stand itself, if I just bring you guys closer, is pretty much just like a normal clamp style stand. You essentially just adjust that little knob over here and it kind of tightens up. Now, the actual adjustment you've got over there is 90 millimeters, so you're going to have any sort of desk, I was going to say stand, any sort of desk size. So as you can see, this is pretty thin, so it's going to be very easy. Now, the actual stand itself is rather unique because of the way it adjusts, and let me just show you this in terms of from just a little bit from afar, and you can see how it works. So using two hands or using one hand, you can just simply do this. Obviously, your desk will probably not be moving like my footstool does, but as you can see, the stand operates in this way. And I must say, it's a very ingenious way that Samsung have designed this. Because most normal monitor arms, literally almost like imagine my arm was the monitor arm, what it would do is that it won't sit flush and it might be a little bit awkward. However, the monitor arm would provide you full sort of pivot, swivel, tilt, adjustments and what have you, whereas this monitor arm only provides that sort of adjustment back and forth and also gives you the tilt adjustment. So you can't, unfortunately, pivot it towards you or swivel it around. You can't do that, so just bear that in mind. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how that stand actually works. Now, the stand itself, I must say, is really well built, and given the fact that you can put it flush against the wall, really does clear up space. So to give you an example, if I'm going to be having a workflow or whatever it might be, what you'll find is that that sort of space is now cleared up. Because that monitor is now tucked away, I only have that small little part of the stand. And I must say, this sturdy stand does really keep the monitor intact. Where you compare it to other monitors like mine over there, you can see the monitor stand is relatively big, and therefore that sort of workspace is kind of lost. Now, it wouldn't apply in terms of my desk setup, but in ones that have a sort of a plain desk setup or a clean desk setup, which obviously mine isn't, what you'll notice is that saves a lot of space. And that is really the naming the Space Monitor is supposed to design and what Samsung are trying to achieve over here. So that's really much the stand. If you got any questions, be sure to ask me down in the comments below. Now, in terms of the actual build quality of the monitor, other than the stand itself, I must say Samsung have done a fantastic job. The bezels themselves, from the rear design as well, and of course the stand, is very nice. The three-sided borderless design is also very much welcome. It means this 31.5-inch or 32-inch monitor really takes a lot less space than it normally would if it had very thick bezels. So it's very much aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and even the bottom bezel is quite small with a small little Samsung Samsung logo on the right hand side. But that's not only the interesting thing over here, because Samsung have designed a few other things which kind of add to the aesthetics. Now you might be wondering, why on earth am I showing my carpet slash really bad cable management? That's because the cable that Samsung include is quite intriguing. I've not seen something like it on a monitor. On one end, it has a HDMI, which goes to my PC. Then on the other, it has a DC connector with a Y split, which obviously goes to the power. And then this cable runs all the way on its own and goes over here and has another Y split. I've never seen something of the sort, but it's quite interesting because the reason Samsung have designed this is because this cable can be routed throughout the cable in order to kind of declutter that sort of cable look, or not have that mess behind. Honestly, it's not a problem for me, but I can see why you would want a nice sort of clean one cable type of approach. They've done it with their TVs and soundbars, so it's no surprise to see it with their monitor. So it's an intriguing design. Now, a kind of cause for concern is the fact that you've only got mini display ports and HDMI. It's fine in terms of inputs go, especially for 4K 60 Hz. However, I would have liked some extra HDMI ports or maybe a normal display port to connect it up with multiple sources, because people using this monitor might have a laptop, a computer, let's say an Xbox or whatever, or PlayStation. They'll want to connect it up to different sources, and unfortunately you're kind of limited in that respect. Now, the monitor's OSD is accessed through a little joystick button I found at the back. It's nothing new on a monitor, let alone a Samsung monitor. However, it's quite nice to see it again coming to fruition on this monitor. If you just bear with me as I just kind of tilt it around so you guys can see the monitor rather than see the side of the monitor. So now the monitor itself, in terms of the design and build quality, no complaints. And in terms of the OSD itself, it's pretty comprehensive. Now, you'll be able to access a variety of different settings. Probably my camera's not going to pick it up because it might be too small, but nevertheless, within the picture settings, you've got the normal suite of selection of things that you're going to find in OSD. There's Samsung Magic Upscale button as sort of mode as well. And in terms of the colors, I've got it on normal and mode 1, which is the default that it comes with. And other than that, response time as fastest, because I wanted to test in terms of its gaming mode. The game mode, by the way, that it has within the settings is purely just for color. You've also got PIP and PPB mode, which is good if you have multiple sources, which here you'll be limited to only 2. And other than that, you've got some sort of system settings and information. So OSD is comprehensive and pretty much has got everything that you kind of need from it. However, how is the picture quality? Well, this is where I found the VA panel to be a little bit disappointing. Of course, its 4K resolution is very nice to see, and if you've got the right window scaling buttons, you're going to find it pretty good. But what I found to my eyes, I found it looked a bit washed out. On the Gamma 1 mode setting, I found the colors were a little washed out, whereas when I dial it down to the Gamma 2 or 3 setting, which is not something I normally do on a monitor, I found that the colors became a little bit punchier. So going through this image, for example, you've got great contrast, but then the greens are just a little bit dull and they don't really look that vibrant green that you'd kind of expect. And in terms of the eyes over here, they should be a little bit sort of deeper. And when you compare this to a class-leading VA or even IPS panel, this monitor really doesn't, draw my attention with my own eyes. To kind of look at the results, I then put it onto a calibrator, and then I suddenly found the results were kind of matching to what I would see. The color accuracy isn't good, with an average LTE of 2.55 and a maximum of 4. Then I dialed down the gamma setting. As you can see, it went completely south with an average of around 4 and a maximum of 7. So in all honesty, if you're going to want the best color accuracy, you're going to have to leave it on the default settings. And over here, you'll have a contrast ratio of 2100 to 1, which is absolutely fine and perfect for a VA panel. But then the brightness is only at around 340 nits, which means that it's not going to be as bright as some other monitors out there, specifically ones who have HDR, so which reached a 400 or 600 standard. Here, this monitor is going to be a little bit duller. And in this respect, what you'll find is that looking at the monitor in a bright sunlit room, you might struggle to see all the best details about it. Also, in terms of the uniformity, not impressive again. In the extremities of the monitor, it kind of lacked. So overall, in terms of picture quality, I wasn't impressed, and for the price, I would expect a lot better. monitors from BenQ and even Samsung themselves have very much better monitors out there and for even cheaper. So in terms of overall picture quality, not something I'd recommend. In terms of gaming performance, it's not a gaming monitor, and of course it's not like the 27-inch 144Hz variants, but this wasn't a gaming monitor to say the least. Response time was slow and input lag was pretty poor. Not something I would ever use for competitive gaming for any stretch of the imagination. For casual gaming, of course, you can always play casual games on any single monitor, even if you've got a potato. So there we go, guys. That's pretty much my opinion and thoughts about this monitor. It's not something I would recommend because I can't quite see why an artist or video editor, photo editor or whatever have you who wants that extra space to work with is ever going to get this monitor. The only person I can see this appealing to is those who want pure aesthetics, and for this monitor is good. So there we go, guys. I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye bye.